In the summer of 2008, I was recruited to be on staff for Goldmine, which is the Pacific Northwest District's youth leadership school. It wasn't an easy decision to make, actually, to agree to be on staff. It meant that I would have to spend an entire week sleeping on the floor at church, and the church where I served was hosting it, which meant 7 days and nights of never leaving work. I think anyone with a normal sense of self-preservation would have at least hesitated, if not refused, but Tandy Rogers, many of you have met Tandy, she played me like a fiddle. She said, "Our youth need to know that their ministers care about them, that their ministers see them, that their ministers love them," she said. "And I can't find any other minister in this entire district who will go and do this." The staff gathered on Saturday morning. There were 6 of us, 3 adults and 3 older youth or young adults. We worked in teams so that we could model shared leadership. One pair taught LSD, leadership skills development. Another pair taught UU history and identity. And my team, myself and a young woman named Annalise, we led workshops on spirituality and worship, as well as facilitating credo time, 2 hours each day that the youth spent reflecting on their own identity, beliefs, and sense of call. Now, Annalise was bright and wise, and we were really intentional in our planning to make sure that she wouldn't be overshadowed. Having to work with a minister is not an easy thing for a teenager. We wound up revamping a bunch of the curriculum because she'd gone through it just a year or 2 before and said it was overly dry and intellectual and boring. So we focused on building trust, fostering creativity, and inviting greater spiritual depth. We also wanted the students to have more fun, so we came up with the infamous Worship from Hell lesson, where youth were invited to incorporate as many worship don'ts into a single service as they could manage. Do you know that was me? Yeah, that was me. The students arrived on Sunday evening, and we were prepped and ready to go. In the opening worship, as is traditional, we told the story that I just told to our children. What is it for us to do? It is for us to heal the world. And then, early Monday morning, we got news of the shooting at the Tennessee Valley Unitarian Universalist Church. A gunman had come into a UU sanctuary on a day when the children were presenting a musical, and he had opened fire. 2 people were killed and 6 were wounded, and it felt like such a violation. There's something about a gunman who is willing to invade a place of worship that feels especially wrong. And this was ours, our place of worship. So needless to say, I had to set aside my responsibilities for Goldmine in part so that I could respond as the minister of my congregation. I wrote a pastoral letter, and we decided that the youth would help me plan a prayer vigil, a different kind of learning opportunity for them, as it were. I invited my interfaith colleagues to join us, and we crafted a liturgy based on a ritual that we had performed across the county every time there was a homicide or a suicide, a ritual we called Moment of Blessing, and it reclaimed space and hearts for hope and peace and love. Now, as you can imagine, trying to balance my responsibilities to the youth and prepping for this vigil, I had a very busy couple of days, but the vigil, which was Wednesday night, was really something so special. Spirit moved. Some of the students were musicians, and they offered these sweet and beautiful pieces that just broke us open. My interfaith colleagues were magnificent and generous and loving. And my congregation and those UU youth, we all felt held by a wider faith community, which was a new experience for many of us. When it was all over, we sent a recording of the service and handmade cards to the Tennessee Valley Church. Now, that evening will always remain in my memory as an example of religion at its best. My evangelical colleague, he prayed in Jesus' name. He used old-fashioned Christian language. And my congregants at the time, well, a lot of them had a pretty bad case of what we call cross-cringe, like an instinctive negative reaction to any Christian language. So I was worried as he was speaking, and then I looked around and I saw one of the crustiest of the crusty atheists, and she had tears streaming down her face, and I knew we were okay. The youth and the adults heard the love, and we were healed by his presence, and also by the presence of the unity minister and the Catholic priest and the lesbian hospital chaplain, all ages, all faiths, working together, loving one another, healing ourselves, and in doing so, doing that work of helping to heal the world. Now, it was later that week that I had my first conversation with Annalise about that Baal Shem Tov story. She said, it's a really big load to put on us to heal the whole world. Most days it's a struggle to feel healed and whole myself. And I told her that healing ourselves may be the most important part of healing the world. That it's from our inner sense of strength, through our ability to love, that we reach out and are able to make a difference. But the question stuck with me, and so we kept having the conversation, and eventually the story was changed in the Goldmine Manual. So, Daniel, how did you learn it when you went to Goldmine? What is it for us to do?
It is for us to help heal the world.
It is for us to help heal the world. One little word that they added, but it makes all the difference. It gives us permission to do what we can and to let go of the rest. It helps us to feel connected, to remember that we're part of a larger community, all of whom are working in their own way to heal the world's brokenness. We become a part of a bigger we, a we that extends beyond the walls of a single congregation, beyond the limits of a single faith, that weaves together all people of goodwill around the world. And suddenly those huge tasks that make us feel so overwhelmed become a little less daunting. The weight doesn't sit solely on our shoulders. We can focus on healing ourselves and developing inner strength and resilience. And then from that foundation, we can take that one small step that's ours to take toward love and healing and hope. Now, I say that, but I have to be honest with you. Earlier this week, when the news of the Vegas shooting started to trickle in, my initial reaction was just overwhelm. I couldn't even make it through the whole article that I had chosen to read. I stayed miles away from the live footage. I've spoken before about how difficult it is for our brain to metabolize those live images of trauma, and so I'm very careful about what I watch and what I won't watch. This particular incident, I think, stands alone as a horrible tragedy, almost incomprehensible in scope, but when it's viewed as part of the larger epidemic of mass shootings in our country, the brokenness just feels huge and heavy and complex. And I confess, I felt unable to find a way forward that made space for hope and healing. I think I was able to make a few Facebook posts, but I did not send you all a brilliant and loving pastoral letter, as many of my colleagues did, as I have done, maybe not brilliant, but I've sent you pastoral letters before. I just didn't have it in me. I didn't open our sanctuary the way I have at other tragedies. I just couldn't. I hope you'll forgive me. And then I was contacted by the Brady Group, and they asked me to help organize a community event. And I'm sitting there on the phone, and I'm still feeling so leaden, so overwhelmed, so weighed down, but I also felt responsible. I mean, somebody needs to do something. And so I agreed to help, but I said, I'm going to see if I can get my interfaith colleagues involved. We had a meeting scheduled for Wednesday at noon, and what I said to Karen, who called from Brady, is that if they'll help, if the entire Interfaith Association will agree to sponsor this vigil, then we'll move forward. got to tell you, I brought it to my Interfaith Association, and they were not wildly enthusiastic. But they did agree. I think we were all feeling weighed down, all feeling leaden and overwhelmed. But each of us found it within ourselves to do a few little things. Karen pulled together the pictures of all of the victims and their names, and Norm brought candles and a sound system, and Jody, and Don both agreed to pray, and I put together a sort of a rough order of things, and I contacted the Vandaliers who came. A subset of the Vandaliers came and sang us an Ubi Caritas. What is it about those young, sweet voices that just breaks through the walls of my heart? It was so beautiful. So we held our candles and we read the names, and some of my colleagues who prayed used old-fashioned Christian language, but those of us who were there, we only heard the love. See, this is the hidden gift of tragedy, of times when the brokenness is so big that it can't be ignored or denied. For a time, we aren't Buddhist and Christian and Jew, conservative and liberal, young and old. For a time, we are all just human and hurting. The invisible walls that keep us apart come tumbling down. The illusion of separateness, it flickers and fades, and we hurting humans are able to come together in love, and we're able to pray with whatever words, to pray for peace. My friends, this is not a time to give in to isolationism or exceptionalism. As my colleague Robin Bartlett puts it, free us from feelings of apathy and hopelessness and moral fatigue. Invoke in our imaginations visions of what could be. Remind us again and again that the world is now too small for anything but truth, and too dangerous for anything but love. Now she reverses the order. William Sloane Coffin said the world is too dangerous for anything but truth and too small for anything but love. The truth of it is, it works both ways. We help heal the world by loving ourselves unconditionally, by granting ourselves permission to see, to feel our feelings. I see you. I love you. We help heal the world by getting our ego out of the way so that our need to be in control no longer blocks our natural ability to recover. We help... I skipped a paragraph. Oh, gosh, I'm sorry. It's been a long week. I'm tired. I have to go back to the we don't parts. We don't heal the world by coming up with perfect solutions, right? We don't heal the world by coming up with perfect solutions. We don't heal the world by convincing everyone around us that we are the smartest ones, that we know the way. We don't heal the world by getting people we agree with into elected office. Sorry, we don't. We help heal the world by loving ourselves unconditionally, by granting ourselves permission to feel our feelings. We help heal the world by getting our ego out of the way so that our need to be in control no longer blocks our natural ability to recover. And we help heal the world by engaging in the activities and the practices that make us feel whole, whether it's walks in nature or creativity, music or joy, beauty, whatever it is that brings you back to center and allows you to love again. We help heal the world by loving others, even when we don't agree with them. We help heal the world by letting other people love us with whatever words they choose. We help heal the world by making connections, by having meaningful, high-quality conversations. We help heal the world by seeing and acknowledging the essential human dignity of every person we encounter. Over and over again, I see you, I love you, I see you, I love you. There's another old Jewish folktale that I'm partial to. It's called How It All Began, and it's a version retold by John O'Brien. In the beginning, before there were any beginnings or endings, there was no place that was not already God, and we call this unimaginable openness Ein Sof. being without end, world without end, Ein Sof. Then came the urge to give life to our world and to us, but there was no place that was not already God. So Ein Sof breathed in to make room, like a father steps back so his child will walk to him. And we call this withdrawing Tzimtzum. Into the emptiness, God set vessels and began to fill them with divine light, like a mother places bowls into which to pour her delicious soup. And we call these bowls Ke-Elim. And as the light poured forth, a perfect world was being created. Think of it, a world without greed, without cruelty or violence. But then something happened. The Ke-Elims shattered. No one knows why. Perhaps the bowls were too frail. Perhaps the light too intense. Perhaps God was learning. After all, no one makes perfect the first time. And with the shattering of the bowls, the divine sparks flew everywhere. Some rushed back to Ein Sof, and some fell down and away and were trapped in the broken shards of the bowls. They became our world and us. And though this is hard to believe, the perfect world is all around us, just broken into jagged pieces. It's like a puzzle thrown on the floor. The picture is lost, each piece without meaning, until someone puts them back together again. It takes every single piece to make the puzzle whole. No one can be left behind. No thing can be forgotten or ignored. We are the ones who must put the puzzle back together. There is no one else. We are the ones that can find some of those broken pieces, remember how they fit together, and rejoin them. And we call this repair of the world Tikkun Olam. In every moment, in every act, we have the possibility of healing our world and us. We are each holy sparks, but dulled by separation. And when we meet and talk and eat and love each other, when we work and play and disagree, with holiness in our eyes, seeing Ein Sof everywhere, then a little at a time and over a long time, our brokenness will end. And our bowls will be strong enough to hold the light, and our light will be gentle enough to fill the bowls. As we repair the world together, we will learn again and again that there is no place that is not God. That's the end of the story. When confronted by the brokenness in the world, we don't have to take it onto our shoulders as a burden to carry. It's enough to be present to it. I see you. I love you. It's enough to breathe and breathe some more and breathe some more until we find the strength to do that one small act of kindness and love that appears in front of our feet. Often that small act is to extend compassion to our own precious self. So what is it for us to do? It is for us to help heal the world. It is for us to repair the world together, heart by heart, piece by piece, moment by moment. I see you. I love you. In this way, in this slow way, we create the world that we dream of. We create the future that's worthy of our children. So be it, and so may it be. I invite you now to rise.